Hey everyone, this is an update from my previous video of living with myasthenia gravis. As you can see, I'm a much different person today than I was when I posted that video. The things that you didn't really know about that video or about me from that previous video before, because I couldn't really speak and I couldn't really let you know what was going on, all that you did know was that I had myasthenia gravis, and that was pretty much my life with myasthenia gravis. What you didn't know was that I was 31 years old, and I had been diagnosed with myasthenia gravis after 8 years of pretty much battling something that I didn't know what it was. I had episodes of passing out. I had episodes of uncontrollable shaking and unable to really move. I didn't understand why I couldn't move my legs or my arms, and at times I couldn't open my eyes. I couldn't speak. I would lose my voice frequently, and I didn't know why I was losing my voice. Things like that were happening. I was seeing doctors regularly to try to figure out what was going on. The first thing that they had noticed was that I was having cardiac problems. I had a lot of heart problems, and my heart rate would be like in the 30s and stuff. Eventually I ended up having to have a pacemaker put in. So I currently do have a pacemaker. I also have a stent in my superior vena cava because I had what you call superior vena cava obstruction, because I threw a clot, and the clot attached to my pacemaker lead, and my superior vena cava closed to protect me from, obviously, the clot getting loose and killing me. So I had to have a stent put in there. I also have had a lot of ablations. I've had about 5 ablations because I had supraventricular tachycardia. I had atrial fibrillation. I had a few different rhythms. Bottom line is, it came out to be sick sinus syndrome, and I needed my sinus node to be knocked out, and I have a pacemaker, so I'm 100% paced. Anyways, things kind of got bad after that, and I went downhill, and I continued to have more and more problems with nobody being able to really understand what happened. One of my first visits in the hospital that were pretty bad was when I went to go have my stent put in. When I woke up from that surgery, I felt a burning sensation all throughout my body, and I deteriorated pretty quickly after that. I was unable to walk. I ended up having to be intubated, which is, having the tube down my throat so that I can breathe. I was unable to urinate on my own. They had to put Foley catheter. I was unable to move my bowels. I was unable to move anything. My legs couldn't move, my arms. I was able to move my arms. It was the only thing that I was able to move at that time, and I did a lot of writing. I kept writing and asking questions and trying to figure out what was wrong, because the only things that worked at that moment was my brain and my arms. And I used both of them quite a bit to try to figure out exactly what was happening. But anyways, long story short, I pretty much went through 2 years of hell. For 2 years, I was on immunosuppressants, Imuron, stuff like that. And I can tell you right now that those medicines, I would much rather have dealt with the disease, because those medicines, I felt like they were killing me. I had a low blood count when I was on Imuron, so I had to discontinue it. I also broke out with like a very bad fever of like 104, and I had flu-like symptoms, and so it had to be discontinued because apparently it was extremely dangerous. I also, after trying those medicines, I went to IVIG therapy. I was doing IVIG therapy once every like 6 months, and then it turned into once every month, and then it turned into once every week. So once a week, I had to go to the hospital as an outpatient, register, sit there for 8 hours to have fluid pretty much injected into me, which is the positive, the good antibodies to try to help fight against the bad antibodies. So I went through that for 8 hours. But the worst part about it was I would sit there for 8 hours for once a week, only to have maybe a couple days of relief. And then I was right back to having problems. And then eventually it stopped working altogether. I would go for 8 hours to have no relief, to walk out of there practically the same way I walked in, and to have no relief whatsoever. Therefore, I stopped it all. I was done. I said I'm done. I didn't want any more. My doctors told me that I would die if I didn't continue the treatment. And I said to them that I was done. I didn't care. I didn't want any more. I was tired. I was broken. My hopes were gone. I had no desire to continue. And I just wanted it to end because I felt like I was being tortured. And eventually, after going through stent, 2 heart attacks, pacemaker, blood transfusions, ablations, surgeries. They took out nerves from my legs. All these things that I went through, I saw cardiologists, pulmonologists, rheumatologists, hematologists, oncologists, cardiothoracic surgeons. You name the doctor, I saw the doctor. I had doctor galore all over me. I saw doctor after doctor after doctor to try to get help, to try to figure out how to fix myself, to get better. I had a lot of hospital visits. There were 2 that were pretty much really bad. One was when I had to have my first intubation, which was really scary because I didn't know what was happening. I stopped breathing. They had to put a tube down my throat to give me oxygen in my lungs so that I could breathe. I was in the hospital, I believe, for a month that time. I've been in the hospital after that for 3 weeks at a time, other times for 2 weeks at a time. I think the lowest I've ever been was about a week. With all these visits, I had either intubation or I was just paralyzed from the waist down, with the paralyzation kind of moving up. But we all know it's a paralyzation, but it really isn't paralyzation. It's just the muscles they stop working, so you can't move. The worst part of it was one of my last visits at the hospital. I ended up going into hospice care. And for anybody that doesn't know what hospice care is when you are at the end of your life, when you are to die. You will go there to basically die in comfort and not suffer. So I went into hospice care. I was put on morphine. I was put on Lasix, Colace, enemas, antidepressants. You name it, I was on it. I was like an 80-year-old with 60 different medications. Most of them being medications to help with symptoms that other medications caused. Morphine was one of the highest ones that I was on. I was up to 1,500 milligrams a day. Yeah, 1,500 milligrams a day of morphine. Just to function. Just to be able to not be in pain and to not suffer. That's what I was on. And finally, with no answers and not understanding what was happening and having nobody be able to explain what was happening or why it was happening or how to stop it, I kind of gave up and I lost hospice care because I went on a trip because I wanted to take my kids on a kind of a last summer trip because I wasn't expecting to be around any much longer. And that was kind of a blessing in disguise because when I came back from my trip, there was a miscommunication and hospice dropped me. And I ended up back in the hospital, fighting for my life again. And I realized at that moment that everything and anything that I had been doing this whole time was a Band-Aid. And that something had to change because nothing anybody was doing for me was really helping me. And that I was going to leave behind 2 beautiful children, a husband, and a big family. And I decided that I didn't want to do that. I wanted to know why I couldn't get better, and I wanted to do something about it. And just a little history of me that you don't know is that I am a paramedic, and I was a paramedic for 10 years. I've been in the medical field for 13 years. I was also in nursing school, about to finish nursing school when all this happened to me, and I had to put that on hold. But now I am going back to nursing school. I start in January. I'm going to finish my degree. So that you know, I know what it's like to be a patient. I was a patient, and I was a paramedic, and I am a medical professional. I know the medical side, and now I know the patient side. And I can tell you right now that the reason I am the way I am today, that I can speak to you, that I am talking normally, that I am able to walk, go out, go to the beach, be in the sun, go out dancing, enjoy time with my kids, and just have my life back and be kind of almost, 100% back to what I was. It's all because of holistic medicine. I met this doctor that was a good friend of my other friends, who she had told me about this doctor prior. But I was not ready to go see this doctor because, like most people, I believed in medicine. I believed in doctors. I believed that if I was sick, I had to go to a doctor and the doctor would fix me. Because that's what I believed in. I mean, I'm a paramedic. When people go down or something happens to a person, I am there and I help them. I help them get through that moment so that they can get better. So I've always have done it to help people. And I have always wanted people to get better. And I assumed that that was what everybody in this world that works as a medical professional wants. And I have learned the hard way that that is not true. Most doctors, I'm not saying all, most doctors do not want you better. They want you sick because you come in every month, every week, every 2 weeks, however many weeks or however many days you come in. You come in and your insurance or yourself pays for their service. They are a business. They are a business and you are their client. So whether you want to believe it or not, they are not out for your best interest. They are out for money. They want money. They want their nice, cushy little life, their nice, cushy little cars. And at the end of the day, they don't think about you. They go home, they go to bed, they deal with their family, their life, and you don't matter anymore until they see you the next time. And I'm sure a lot of you can relate to that because I can tell you as a patient, I have walked into doctor's office that know me, and I've walked in a month later, and I have to explain to them who I am and why I'm there and what has happened. Because they don't know who I am. They don't know what has happened. They don't know anything about me, even though I've been their patient for a year. So I can tell you that they don't care. You are not their priority. You are cattle like everybody else that comes in to get help. You are there to be put on these medications that are by the pharmaceutical companies to keep you addicted to them, to keep you stuck on them, to keep you having to deal with them because it is a big, big money corporation. I mean, it's about money. It's all about money. And that is really sad, but that is the truth. And I can tell you, people in emergency medicine don't do that. They don't really think that way. There are some that do, but for the most part, emergency medicine, all we think about is really helping you stabilize and getting you to the hospital where we think that you're going to get treated and get better and start your life over, start over. But that's not the case with hospitals and doctors. They're a big business and it's about money, and that's the bottom line. Anyways, enough of all that craziness. The answer to how I am the way I am right now is holistic medicine. Dr. Reinhardt is the doctor that I have been dealing with. I do want to just put a little disclaimer out there, or forewarning, or whatever you want to call it. Not all holistic doctors are out there